When you were starting up, did you get the kind of support that you wanted from your parents, or were they reluctant that you shouldn't be leaving your jobs and starting something of this sort?
They were very reluctant.
They were.
Did they support us or not? They supported us fully in what we wanted to do. But were they reluctant and were they uncomfortable with what we were doing? Yes, they were uncomfortable with what we were doing. I think Mohit came from a place where he was, heavily paid, and kind of giving all of that up to start up something where you don't know how it would go. And my father's been in the army, in the services. I remember growing up, he used to keep telling us, you join the army, or you at least become an IS officer, at least do something in the government services. So for him, a shift from not having a regular job to trying something in business was like a huge gap for him, right? So they had their reservations, but it was never that they did not support our decision. They've always been of the kind, both sets of our parents, where they've been like, okay, go follow your dreams, and then if something goes wrong, we have enough cushion and padding to kind of help you sail through a bad phase, but please be mindful of what you're doing.
Right.
And know when it is time to stop doing what you're doing, right? Like, just don't get married to the idea just because, and have any ego in the middle come through saying that I started it, I'll make it work. If it goes down south, then please decide to sort of stop and go back to your regular jobs. And that was it. Otherwise, if you ever need anything, we were always there for you, was what they always told us. So we had a lot of support from them. In fact, not just from that aspect, but even when both Mohit and I were working, when in the starting phases, when you don't have a very large team, we used to be away for work for a lot of time, and that's when both sides of the parents kind of chipped in and came. Mohit's aunt used to live with us so that she could be around with the girls. My parents live very close by, so if there was ever a need, they would come over to be with the girls as well. So we found a lot of support from the family, and I think we're truly blessed to have found that.
Sure. And what do they feel now after?
They feel very proud.
Yeah.
They feel very proud. In fact, I remember a few days back, my mom came and she's like, listen, I think everybody should do business. So it was very quickly changed from saying that, for Mohit especially, where he was saying he was a consultant and consulting really large companies, and wo sabun bechega. So to that, it changed very quickly to saying that yes, everybody should do something of their own.
Right. What was that time when you felt that, when you started it? When did you actually feel that things are turning out the way you expected them to be? What was that year, and what made you feel that?
It was actually very initially on. We saw signs come in very quickly. So within 3 to 4 months of launching the product, we had, and it was always customer feedback that kind of gave us the impression that we were on the right path. I remember it was very early on that, there was this one particular moment where we got a call from a lady where she said that, my sister-in-law just announced that she's pregnant and she's based out of Dubai. And the only thing she's asked me to bring with me is a themomsco's gift hampers. We had like these pregnancy gift hampers, which got really popular. And that kind of felt good. There was this lady who called us at about 11 p.m. at night. And she said, listen, I've placed the order, but I'm a little late. Can you please make sure that the box for the kids, that we had a hamper for babies, gets delivered within the next 2 days to my house? And she was based out of Bombay, I still remember. And we were like, yeah, sure. But this is 11 p.m. and what is it? And she said that, I said, for whom do you want it? Is it for gifting? She said, no, it's not for gifting, it is for my own child. And, I've gone into pre-labor. So I said, okay, so has a baby been delivered? She said, no, I'm on my way to the hospital. And that for us was huge, like if a woman at the time when she's going to deliver remembers a brand and makes a phone call to the brand saying that, can you please make sure, because I was supposed to deliver 1 week later, but it's been preponed by 1 week. So can you just make sure that by the time I reach home, the products reach home, right? Because I don't want to use anything else but this on my newborn. Right. And there was instances like that gave us a lot of faith and hope, saying, and and a lot of belief that probably what we are creating is on its way to become something really large.
But so when it was so quick, did you had some struggling days as well, wherein you were struggling with maybe marketing or selling? Because I feel that innovating idea is one thing, the other bit is selling the products. That I feel is a difficult task. So did you have that struggling phase of selling your products as well?
There's always a struggling phase. Every phase has its own struggles. Selling the first product was very interesting when we got the first order. Selling the first order on Amazon was very encouraging for us. I think it all has its part. But what we did was we always looked at what we wanted to do in the next 3 months and prepare for it in the quarter before. Right, so we were always prepared with what was happening, and in each phase there were lots of struggles that came through. But I think it was just for both of us, it was about making this work. We were creating products that our own children were using. Both my daughters were using, and there was no looking back or saying that we don't want to do this, right? So we kept working more and more to go towards it, and I think one of the best things that happened to us was that we created this, this world of people around us who would really help us grow as individuals, right? Like as entrepreneurs, you do a lot of things for the first time, right, and you need a lot of mentors. So we got a lot of mentors on board with us, and those mentors kind of sat with us every now and then to tell us what to expect and hence be prepared for what is going to come next, right? And then that was what we followed. We knew what we were good at, and we knew what we were not good at, and we were very happy to ask for help for what we were not good at and learn through the process of what we were doing.
Sure. I will talk about North India mentality in terms of people buying different products, and this is what my perception is, that a lot of time people feel that if the product is expensive, it must be good, right? Whereas when I saw your products, they're quite cheap. So I mean, did you not feel that let's just increase the price so that people actually rely on your brand and buy it quickly?
No.
I think it goes back to the overall objective. Our objective when we started the brand and the company was we want to make sure that no parent has a difficulty choosing great products and the products that always work. And so our target was always, can we have this the lowest price possible without compromising on quality? So we said, we'll use the best ingredients possible, we will import them where needed, we'll make them in very high quality manufacturing units and good packaging. And after all of that, keep decent margins so we can run the business. But keep it at a price point where it's not about signaling ki mehenga hai. We wanted it to be affordable to everybody. So that's why we also tagged it close to where competition was, right? So I think in baby care, I'd say we were still a bit expensive. We couldn't reduce the price below 2.5 times the mass market sort of leader, right? We really wanted to reduce the price further, but the quality of the product didn't allow us to do that. In the personal care, pregnancy care, we were almost at par with everybody with far better ingredients.
Sure. What was individually, your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
I love working with very smart people. I thought what I enjoyed the most was constant learning. I don't think you get to learn as much as what you do while you're being an entrepreneur, because there are very different fields that you work with. You get a very microscopic view of everything that you're doing, right? You kind of get into details of everything initially while you're building your team and for everything. And I thought I just really enjoyed the whole learning phase of entrepreneurship.
Sure.
For me, it was just solving a lot of interesting different problems. Every day is different. And every day there's something new or a new challenge that you have to do, something new you have to learn. That process of solving problems is what I really enjoyed.
So Mohit, I feel that the initial innovation or the idea was Mallika's, right?
Yeah.
So what was your role initially, in the initial days?
I came at it very differently. Working in Snapdeal, I had seen the power of the Indian woman consumer.
Right.
And I thought that, she's the one that we should really build for on e-commerce. So I wanted to test that. So e-commerce and how can you build on e-commerce was interesting. For me, the process of brand building was exciting. I've always been enamored by different brands and what they're able to create. And the idea of a brand that we create, which we are able to sell and actually distribute and make people aware of it on social media, that excited me. So the process of building that brand and selling, that was interesting.
Sure. I missed checking one thing when I was checking about yourself. What all different companies you'd worked for?
I worked with a company called CMS Computers, that was into networking after my engineering.
Right.
And then I worked with ICICI Bank.
And what was the total tenure?
I think it was 2 years before and 2 years after MBA.
Okay. What about you, Mohit?
I did McKinsey, actually TCS for 2 years. Then I was in McKinsey for 7 years. Then Snapdeal for a year and a half. And then Mom's Company for 7 years.
If you were to compare yourself from where you are right now and what you were before you became an entrepreneur, what all changes do you see in yourself?
I don't think there is any comparison. I think every part of how I deal with people, deal with problems, how I think about businesses is very different. You just built from scratch, right? You learn how to build from nothing and do brick by brick and actually create a house or something out of it. It's a very rare experience. You don't get that in a lot of other jobs or in many businesses also actually. So it's very different. I think the lens with which I see the world in all sorts of facets is now completely different.
Right. Okay, we'll talk about some young entrepreneurs who are starting their journey but they're failing very quickly as well. What one information that you would like to give away for those young entrepreneurs who are actually getting into starting something of their own?
Kind of assess what your personal goal in life is and what the market potential is of what you're trying to do, right? Kind of match the two together, right? So for instance, someone who's running a 1 crore business is very happy running a 1 crore business. Someone running a 100 crore business is also not happy with a 100 crore business, right? And a lot of it boils down to what your own personal aspirations are. And that's where the definition of failure comes into picture, right? What might be failure for one might not be for the other, or what might be successful for one may not be successful for the other. And this is barring those huge successes that happen. I'm not talking about those. But I think it's very related to one's own personal goals. So being very clear and honest with yourself on what is it that you want from your professional journey or entrepreneurial journey, or what you want from life is very important. And then kind of assessing, seeing that the opportunity that you're seeking for work, does it help you attain your own personal goal or not? And if you think both match together, is where you should proceed and go forward to kind of do it. And that, I think, will increase your chances of success. That's one, of course, assessing it and evaluating it. Right. And the other bit is once you've evaluated and decided this is something that you want to do, then kind of putting in your heart and soul into it and knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, right? And not trying to spend too much time learning what you're not good at, but instead getting more and more people to help you out with, right? It could be in the form of mentors, in terms of employees, in terms of experts, whoever it is, to kind of do it. So just sort of go back in time, right? I said the first person we hired was a formulator, because none of us knew how to formulate a product. Now imagine if I would have gone down to saying that, okay, I need to learn how to formulate. The amount of time that I would have spent to try and gain that skill, right, would have been so large that by the time I would have launched, there would be another 100 other brands that would have launched by then. I would have probably lost out of the opportunity. So the ability to assess this is also extremely important, right? So get experts when and where needed so that they can compensate for what you're not good at.
Sure. Talking about the competition, did you had any competition back then in 2016, or all the competitors in such field came much later after seeing your...
We had giants. I remember when we entered, people asking us questions saying that you're entering a category which is driven by trust. And forever, trust has been defined by the number of years of existence of a company. Right. And there you're coming as a new brand trying to say that, okay, trust us, right? And why should someone trust? And that was actually the whole idea when we were doing the brand theory around it, saying that what the brand should be was all around saying how as a new age brand do we kind of gain the trust of a mother. It's a very sensitive category, right? You're basically telling a mother, trust me for your 0-day-old child, right? And when they are at the moment where they are most nervous and not sure of what they're doing, right? A mother is always unsure of whether she's doing the right thing or not. At that point of time, we're coming as a new brand saying that trust us with your child. It's a huge thing to ask for. And how is it that you build that connection and trust with the mother so she believes you and trusts you over something that has existed over years? And that was the whole journey that we took. So that was...
So how have you built that trust in your customer?
Oh, it was a lot of things that you had to do. I realized it doesn't get built overnight, and it doesn't get built by one person.
Right.
So it takes like the whole army of everyone who's working together to be able to create that aura of trust for the brand, right? So every communication you put out, everything you speak, what the founders talk, what the employees talk, what are the partners talking in terms of suppliers, and everybody. Like I think everybody needs to be talking the same language for trust to flow from from the actual company to the product and to the consumer, right? So I think everybody in that chain needs to be on the same page of what they're building.
Sure. I also feel that these days everybody would want to be away from chemicals and toxins. So there are a lot of companies that are already there. How different is the themomsco from them?
So we were one of the first few companies who launched, and we did this. Like India, lots of companies in India now say that we are toxin free, but the term toxin free did not exist 7-8 years back, and that was exactly when we started. So we actually introduced the concept of toxin free. We were always very focused on who we were solving for and who the consumer was for us. In our case, it was the mum that we wanted to create products for. Right. And all our focus went on solving for that one consumer. So all we did was constantly build on that consumer and tried to solve that consumer's need from everywhere. So we did pre-pregnancy, post-pregnancy, during pregnancy, baby care, and as the mom grew, all the products and stuff that she needed. So we were very focused on not just the product of what we were trying to build, but also on our consumer, which was very clearly defined, which I think was not true for a lot of other brands.
Sure. I also researched about, I was checking on your website, you have this policy of, where the customers can return back the empty bottles and jars. Who thought of that? I think it's one of the best initiative any company can do, wherein you're helping the environment and
it came from the customer. So I still remember there was this lady who sent us a handwritten note. Right. And with that note, she sent us the bottles back. She sent us the shipper carton back, and she sent us all of it, and she wrote a letter, and that letter obviously went back to the warehouse. And one of the boys, our warehouse boys, once came to office for a party, and he said, Mallika ma'am, आपके लिए customer ने भेजा है कुछ हमारे ही box में, क्या करना है इसका? I said, let me see it. I opened it, and there were these empty bottles that were lying there, and there was a nice 2-page letter sent by the consumer saying that I love using what your products are, but I also want to leave a greener, safer world for our children, right? And is there anything that you can do to reduce the usage of plastic? And that was where it all came in from. So fortunately or unfortunately, the products that we built are stable only in very few packaging materials. Not every packaging material can keep the shelf life of the product for long. Sure. So not much we could do there, but we ensured that all the plastic we used was recyclable. So it was all graded 1 and 2. We started this program of return the empties to us, tied up with plastic neutral to kind of nullify the impact of plastic that we used during the course. But all of it actually came in when that letter came in to us from that lady, and she actually took the pain of writing it out. I still have that letter with me.
Sure. How difficult was it for you to manage this logistics wherein you're only picking those empty jars back from the customers? So how difficult it is logistically for you guys?
It was initially difficult, but I think over a period of time, reverse pickups have become much easier.
But that is an added cost for you guys, isn't it? And you're taking that cost on yourself, or you've increased the rates marginally to cover up that?
No, we took the cost on because we thought it was the right thing to do for the customer.
Yeah.
And the way to justify the cost was if the customer is buying so often that they really care about the products, this one thing will make sure that they continue buying with us. So in the long term, it's actually very beneficial for the company and for the customer and the environment. So it made sense for everyone.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about acquisition. When you nurture a company like a baby, what made you take that bold decision of selling 90% of the stake for your company?
It was the right time. So with any company, there's always a point of time when you say, how do I make this very large? And either you go and raise lots of money to make that happen, if that's available, or you say, let me partner with someone. With the Moms company, we always thought that because this is a brand that is very sharply defined, going ourselves into offline won't make sense. It is obviously better to go with 3-4 other brands. If you want to go internationally, it will make sense to go with 3-4 other brands. And so in 2021, when we had FMCG companies reach out to us saying, hey, we would like to partner because we think you can fit our portfolio, we took those conversations very seriously.
Right.
One of those worked out very well, turned into a full acquisition. So the intent was the same, that at the Moms Company, we wanted to make this a top 3 global mom and baby care brand. Who is the partner who can help us achieve that the fastest? And that answer turned out to be an acquisition and partner there.
Sure. So you currently retain 10% of the stake, right?
Right.
The company. What exactly is your role when you have those?
We are right now directors on the board. So we don't have an operational day-to-day role. The entire thing is being run by the company itself.
Right.
When there are questions on strategy, then the team reaches out to us, and that's when we get more deeply involved.
Okay. And how often do you have those board meetings?
Once a quarter, we have a board meeting.
Okay. Again, a question as individuals, right? How do you define success?
Well, for me, success is it's a very moving curve. So I divide success into short-term and long-term goals.
Right.
And I believe in celebrating every time you achieve a short-term or a long-term goal, right? Because that keeps you going. And I reset that success metrics every now and then, so that it's not that you've reached the stage and then you're satisfied with what you have, because then that just stops growth right there. So for me, it's very continuously moving curve of, okay, you've achieved this, great, pat on the back, let's decide what's the next thing you want to do, and then keep moving on from there.
Sure. And for you, Mohit?
For me, success is freedom. To be able to get up in the morning and say, here is what I really want to do today, and choose your projects that you want to really work on. That freedom, I think, is very rare that people get. And so just getting to that goal of freedom is success.
Being an entrepreneur, is it okay to have a direction which is only from you two, or you're open to have opinions of your employees and your team? How is it?
I think it's very important to listen to opinions from everyone as an entrepreneur. Because if you decide to do only what you want, I don't think you can be successful, because the most important feedback comes from your consumer. And if you cannot take feedback, then as an individual, you'll never be able to listen to your consumer. And at the end of the day, what you're building is not for yourself. What you're building is for your consumer. And it's very important for having this whole feedback loop to go on, right? And as you grow larger, you may not be in direct touch with the consumer at all point of time. It's your team who gives you feedbacks.
Right.
It's your, and if you don't listen to your teams when they're giving you feedback and to iterate, you will stagnate very, very quickly. So for constant growth, it is extremely important that you work on feedback from everyone.
Sure. And what are the red flags for an entrepreneur? I mean, something that they shouldn't do at all.
I think it's very individual for everyone. Like, what is acceptable to you and what's not acceptable to you is very different for everyone. In our case, we were very clear saying that cheating or lying was unacceptable. And we made it quite public in middle of all teams that if someone did something wrong, it was voiced and the person was asked to leave immediately, right? And I think it's very important for you to foster a culture that you really want to have your company grow in, right? And then and live by an example for what you want the culture to be set as. So it's very individual in what you think is right and what you think is wrong, right? It's very fluid. But whatever you think by and whatever are your principles as an individual is what you live by, and say what is good and what is right and what's not right.
Sure. So when you started, let's understand that you started with how many employees? Were you the only 2 people doing a lot of work initially for a couple of months, or did you hire somebody? And when you, finally exited out of operations, what was your team strength then?
When we started, it was just 2 of us for a long time. I think for almost 8-9 months, just 2 of us trying to get the formulation, trying to get the product and the brand ready.
Right.
Our first team members were 2 hires, 2 interns and then 2 hires who joined us for a while. During exit, I'd say we were up to about 60-65 people.
60. Sure. And do you know what is the strength right now after the merger has happened?
Now it's complicated because it has been merged across the entire team. So dedicated to the Moms Company, I think there would be 200-250 people working for the company. But they also work for other brands, many of them. right? So I think it's a nice big company now.
Now, since you're not involved in the operations, are you satisfied and happy with the kind of operations and the business that is going on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's the minute you choose for the company to be acquired, you're making a choice that the acquiring company has a say in the future, right? And that roadmap is part of it is same as yours, part of it is different. So I think they're doing a great job. We handed over to a series of professionals who've redefined the brand. They're now redoing the packaging, which looks great. Going out into the market across different channels. We've started seeing them in retail and shops that we were not in before. So yeah, it's nice to see where the brand is going.
So what was your decision-making criteria of handing over your company to a different company?
2-3 things. I think one was that the brand should be well set for the future, and the objective that we have is the objective that the acquiring company also has. That was one. Second is our team should be well taken care of. So a lot of our team members now have larger roles in the larger companies. Some have moved out, and where they moved out also they're doing very well. So the team should be well set. And third was we also had shareholders and investors, right? So from an acquisition perspective, the amount of shareholding returns that they get is fair for the amount of time and effort that they put in with us. So all three of them need to be taken care of.
Sure, good to know that.